Hello, Brad.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on, Adrian. Really appreciate it.
When you're creating a website, what would you say are the driving factors when you're trying to figure out what price you should tell a client?
Okay, so I love that. It's a loaded question because there's lots of ways that we can go.
Oh, yeah.
But to simplify it, because I think we can complicate this whole pricing thing way too much, is that unless you are really skilled with pricing and really experienced with sending quotes and negotiating and getting paid for your work, is most people undercharge. So just like go into the fact knowing that you're probably not asking enough. I'm not saying this to be like you should be greedy, because that's not the case. You're actually damaging your own potential to grow your business or to feed your family. You know, when you're, let's say, charging $500 for a full website. You know, we've all done that when we started out. We built our first site. We charged $500. It feels great, but it's not sustainable. As you're getting experience and maybe you're a full-time freelancer or starting up a little agency or something, you almost always are undercharging for your work. You have to consider the value that the client is getting out of it. And that's not just the money that they get. It's like the time saved. Maybe you're thinking of things that they're not thinking of, you know, the frustration saved. And yes, the money that they either earn or save because of the work that you produce. So there's value there. Also, how much you need to pay yourself. Again, it's not being like, oh, I want to pay myself $100,000 a year. What's your personal expenses? How much are your business expenses? You know, what about taxes? What about all of these things? That goes and synthesizes into your price. So you need to take a lot of different factors in, and this is why you have a pricing calculator, is you need to think about your income requirements, your cost of business, how much you're going to be working, how busy you are, and how valuable your solution is. And then if your clients are high quality or maybe just small businesses with small budgets, in which case you need to price a little bit differently. So first rule of thumb is you're undercharging, probably double what you're thinking. That's kind of my usual first start.
I like that. So double it.
Double it.
That's step one.
Yeah. Step one, double your price and then figure out what you should be charging. But what you could do though is the reason why you won't have to double it if you're using a pricing calculator like this, because you're going to take into consideration, you know, how often you're working, like your working hours.
So let's start off with the very first one there. You mentioned working hours. So when you're saying working hours for a job, what do you actually take into consideration? Okay,
well, we kind of have to do a little math here, and everyone's working hours are different, but you know, I'm in Canada, you're in Australia. We probably have pretty similar working cultures, professional cultures. It's not like you're in a totally different culture where you're like, oh, Australians, like they only work Saturdays. It's like, no, we pretty much all do the Monday to Friday thing. That's kind of the expectation. So 2,080 is what they say. A general rule of thumb is the available work hours per year. And that's kind of going off of the Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. But then you need to also consider this, your own personal weeks of vacation, like how many days you want to take off per year, how many holidays you want to take. Let's say sick days. Let's say time you need to take off. Like you need to take away those hours that you're not working. And also like how much you don't want to work. So if you're freelancing, I know when I started freelancing, I didn't want to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I was like Monday to Thursday, 10 to 3. Like that would be great.
It never ends up like that.
You know?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Put the ideal in there. Bill for your ideal. And the reality is you might be working extra, but you've at least billed for it.
Let's say you've got a client and maybe they're an accounting company, and this accounting company wants a single page website. What are the values or variables that are going into calculating that?
Yes. So I don't bill hourly, so I would never say, because for them,
that's a good question,
right?
Yeah.
If I said 8 hours, it's like, well, what if it took me 1 hour? Then now I'm getting paid less. If my hourly rate is $100 an hour, I could get paid $800, or I could get paid $100. And the client's happy because it's faster and cheaper. I'm not happy because I'm getting paid less and now I have no work.
So what you're saying then here is that if we try to judge a project by how many hours it takes, that's not a good value, because you're on a race to the bottom there. And the calculator really needs to take other things into consideration outside of that.
Exactly. So the biggest thing is if you're billing hourly, then you're billing hourly, you're going off of purely time. You're not thinking about your skills, your expertise, your cost of business, or the value you're giving the client. I don't recommend hourly. Maybe for beginners and new freelancers, yes, you can't really go straight for the value pricing. But Now, as a more experienced freelancer, a client comes and says, I need you to build my e-commerce site. And I go, okay, well, what's your annual revenue and what do you, where are the pain points? And if I were to do this for you, what do you think, how would that help you? And then you can start to figure out numbers and go, okay, well, if I can make you an extra $500,000 in the year, you should have no problem paying me $50,000. Then my metric becomes about, I'll get you that outcome. You got to give me $50,000 and I'll figure it out. Maybe it takes me 2 days. Maybe it takes me 3 weeks of nonstop work. That's my problem to figure out, not yours. What I'm going to get you is that outcome that we talked about. That's value pricing in its essence. But let's get back to the pricing calculator. You still need to figure out what's your number. And that's the thing. That's why with mom and pop shops and small businesses, it's hard to quantify the value you're giving to them by just building a brochure website. And the reality is it's probably not that valuable. Maybe they get a couple of calls and then they come and they buy, some goods and some hot dogs or some shirts and they make like an extra $50 a day, or I don't know. Yeah, charging $500 is probably on par with that value. So then you got to look for bigger clients, or in that case, different method of charging, maybe charging hourly. But when it comes to value pricing, it is quite a bit different than charging based on your time, because it's based on the value of the outcome, not your time spent.
So let's say a client comes to you this time and they say they want to build maybe an internal portal for their staff.
Well, probably what I would try to do first is figure out, can I value price this? So I would, talk with the client, consult with them, and find out, like, what am I helping you with here? Like, why do you want this? Why does this matter? Why is this valuable? And how is this valuable? And then to what degree is this valuable? So finding out those numbers, they might say it's literally a number, like it saves them a certain amount of money per year, or it will make them hopefully a certain amount. Or maybe they go, we do this process manually every week. And I go, okay, well, how much does it cost you to pay that person to do that? What's their wage? What's their hourly rate? Whatever. Then you go, okay, so that's costing you $2,000 a week to have that done manually every single time this process happens. Okay, well, I'm going to eliminate that altogether. So that $2,000 per week, let's say, I'm just making these numbers up here, but this is the idea here.
Yeah.
You can reinvest that person's time into something higher value. I will build something that does that for you, creates that profile, does this, it's automated, it's this, it's totally streamlined, it can be done 24/7 online, whatever. And that, if that's $2,000 a week, so that's, $8,000 a month generally. So, and spread out over a year, you got like what, 8,000. So it's like, let's say that's like $90,000 to $100,000 a year in just like totally unnecessary expense. Well, I'm going to eliminate that, but I'm not going to charge you $100,000. I'll charge you probably 10 to 15% of that number I'm saving you. So let's say $15,000. And they go,
Yeah.
okay, well, I see your logic there and how that pans out.
One is the goal of making money. The other is the goal of saving money. And I think these are two very business-oriented goals that people can get behind. That if, for example, you do a pricing calculator that quantifies these things, and then you show these to a business, it makes sense to them. So they would be behind investing that amount of money. So I really like both of those examples.
When it comes to value pricing here, it really just comes down to, can you get this outcome for the client? Now charge accordingly. That's like the simplest version of pricing, but it's also the most complicated and difficult to attain, because it actually requires you to not just sell your time for dollars. It actually requires you to do what you said you'd do for the client.
And this is the next step, right? For a pricing calculator like this, where we're talking about value-based pricing, it's all good for people like me and you who've probably been working in the industry for a long time. But some people are getting into the industry for the first time, and that's why they need a pricing calculator. And they don't know if they can guarantee a better result or guarantee saving money. So maybe sometimes the value basing isn't that great. So what's the fallback then for people, would you say that are in that position?
Yeah, I think the fallback, and that's a great question, is fixed pricing, which is still tied to your time, kind of. So here's the deal. When you charge hourly, you're literally leaving yourself exposed to, you want to make more money, so you're going to work slower. And the client doesn't know if you're going to get to the outcome, and they want you to work less hours. Take that out altogether. You should know how much you need to make hourly to break even. So let's say to live and to work, you find out with your annual cost of business and your personal income requirements and all these factors, which you'll put into the calculator, I need to make a minimum of $75 a day if I'm working 5 days a week in order to put food on the table and to pay rent or to pay mortgages and all these sorts of things. So let's say that that's your number, your break even, you require that. So then you could say, okay, well, in general, after the month, I should be able to divide that by 30-ish and see that I've made $120 a day on average. Perfect. I'm in the green. I'm profiting. I'm able to do this. This is sustainable. If that number is lower than your break-even number, then you're going to go out of business really quickly and wonder what's happening. It's good to know your hourly break-even, not necessarily your hourly what you charge the client. So the fallback is fixed pricing. So let's say similar thing, the client's like, I want you to build a back-end sort of client portal where they have a profile and an avatar and they can update their profile. Instead of value pricing, maybe it's too hard, you don't have the experience, and you got a good client and you don't want to scare them away with your vague pricing that you don't know how to price if you're doing value-based. But you don't want to charge hourly because you recognize now it's not a good idea. Well, you could do fixed pricing. So you internally figure out how many hours do you think it's going to take. My rule of thumb is double that time. That's that double your rate sort of thing right from the beginning. It's because people suck at estimating time and you don't want to scare the client away and you think that you're better than you actually are. You're not accounting for roadblocks, contingencies, problems. So let's say you think it's going to take 20 hours. Well, it's probably going to take about 18 to 22 hours. So just say 40 hours. So it's going to take double my initial time. Okay, well, if I'm charging $80 an hour and I think it's going to take 40 hours, okay, we're looking at about $3,200. You can round that up to $3,500. And then you tell the client, I will do that thing for you for $3,500. They go, perfect. Mm-hmm. Now I know what I'm getting and how much I'm paying. They don't need to know hours. It's not about that. So what you then get to do is the better, the more efficient and streamlined that you work, the happier the client is because...
Well, you've got two options there, right? You've got the option of optimizing and being better at what you do when you deliver it, so you do it faster. Or on the flip side, you could invest more time into it. You still break even or make more money, but you're going above and beyond what they expected because if you do happen to do it faster than your double price, then you know that you can do more in there too. And then they'll come back and give you more work in the future too.
Yes, exactly. So if you make them happy by turning it around quicker, if you tell them it's going to take a month and you give it to them in 2 weeks, they're not going to say, can I have half my money back? They'll say, thank you. You're amazing. That's fast. And then they come back again. Fixed pricing. Here's, if I can kind of summarize here, my methodology and approach to pricing. Know your hourly break-even number internally. You should know how much you should be making per hour overall to break even and to profit as a business owner. That number is not for the client. That number informs what your fixed rates are if you want to do fixed rates. That's a good stepping stone to value pricing. You get to work faster, more efficiently, client's happy. They know what they're paying, they know what they're getting. As you get more experience with fixed pricing, then you can start stepping into value pricing.
So I've got a question for you now. I want an alternative to value pricing because I'm not confident to, guarantee a result. So you said fixed pricing where you create an hourly breakdown and you do a fixed price and you double it. Yeah. Now, let's say that I'm even younger. I've just started development and I have no idea how long it'll take me to do a fixed price. I couldn't tell you if a website took 1 hour or 100 hours for me. I'm just getting into the game. Should I jump into hourly pricing? Should I just try and guess for fixed pricing?
Okay. This comes down to like a kind of a question of experience. So if you're just starting out and you're totally new to the game, look forward to the fact that you'll get to fixed price and value price. That's something that you kind of have to cut your teeth and kind of work towards. It's totally fine to hourly price if you're just starting. If you're new and it's a low risk project, the client's a mom and pop shop or a friend of a friend, they just started up a little Shopify website and they need you to help them set it up. You go, I'll help you set that up and I'll get you those things that you asked for. I'm new and still learning, so I'm going to charge you X amount per hour. And I think it shouldn't take me more than this amount of time. Now, it's your job to make sure that that is done in that amount of time. Anything above and beyond that, that's your problem. I don't think that you should be going back and billing the client. It was your problem to charge hourly in the first place, not the client's. So use that as a learning experience and learn as you do that. Okay, that took way more time than I thought. So next time I charge hourly and estimate time, probably double that amount of time, and then you start getting into the fixed. So it's okay to charge hourly to a certain amount of time.
That's good. I think that gives people like a good level of progression there. And for a pricing calculator, that could be even a very good step. It's like, do you have no experience whatsoever? This is the recommendation. Do you have experience? Can you guess how much something will take you to do? You could maybe start off on fixed pricing. But if you're confident to guarantee your results, that's where you move on to value-based pricing. And each time you do all of these progressions, you're leveling up your pricing game. You're going to be a better person, making more money and having a better life.
Exactly.
So I like it. And
exactly.
thank you very much for like all these insights. That's, I'm sure, going to be very well received by everyone.
Awesome,
here. So
man. I appreciate it. It was my pleasure to be on here, and I can't wait to see this pricing calculator in action.
Now, Brad's got his own channel. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure, yeah. I have a YouTube channel called Creative X. It's just, you just check it out. We'll link it up, I'm sure. And we talk about everything design, no code, freelancing, and Editor X. I love kind of talking to other people who are building amazing things for the internet, and also just showing people what's possible with these really cool tools like Editor X. And so that's where I kind of hang out and talk.